Hi, I got you on the phone, so Mary's already start the meeting. Get it? You there? Yeah. Okay, all right. I'll put you next to the speaker. All right, bye.
Welcome to the City Council Workshop for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Citizens may address the council regarding any item of city business that is not on tonight's agenda. The duration for an individual speaking under public comment input is limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody? Not seeing any. We will move to general items. We have the appointment of Jared Englund as the police chief. We have put him in the interim spot for 3 months now or more. And we've watched how he's worked, and Kurt and I have met with him a couple times and interviewed him and talked with him, and we like his vision for the police department. And we're going to promote him up into with your approval, up into the regular chief position. We have Jared here if anybody has any questions for him. Councilmember McKay.
Thank you. You're on board with this? This is your goal and where you see yourself?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's one of those types of guys that you don't ever want to play poker with. You can't read him. I've tried with our meetings, I look him right in the eye and he's just like looking there and I'm like, boo, did that, nothing. So Councilmember Mize.
Have there been any surprises in the last 3 months while you've been interim chief that you didn't see coming?
There have. Big one was, learning the budget. That was a big one for me. But got on board with that. And just to see putting in stuff to the budget and not only you seeing the positiveness and the frustrations out of it as well, understandably that we don't get everything we ask for. Okay. And then going through, like I said, there was a lot of positives to it. There were some negatives, but we still have to function. We still have to provide a service to the community. So there's no use sitting in a corner and pouting about it. So that's where I see myself is we still have to move forward. And like I said, provide the service to the community with the utmost integrity, honesty, and, service to it. So.
President Sparks.
Thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your vision for the department as you take on this role?
Yes, I want to see the department, the city is evolving, it's continuing to grow. I do want to see the department to continue to grow. At the end of my tenure, at the end of my, when I hit my, whether it's going to be 10 more years or 15 more years, I know I want to continue with the dream that previous Chief Stan Langby had with a new building. That would be the utmost goal that I can go after. But I want to see the continuing to grow within the department. We have a fantastic department right now full of officers. And I want to see their growth to continue to take over those spots to lead others into the positions that I've had. We have 2 outstanding sergeants. We have outstanding SROs. We have outstanding officers that are on patrol as well as our detectives. And I want to see that grow and I want to see those areas improve. I would love to add other positions, not only other officer positions, but I would love to add, potentially a secondary detective spot. There's a lot of there's other task forces out there. We currently have one of our detectives on the DEA task force. I would love to branch out and look at other task force that I could, for future growth for the department, for the officers, not just going out on patrol as well, but also getting that area to where they could go the instructor routes and go that route. So, but the utmost goal is a new building. That's something that I will strive hard for. And if it doesn't happen while I'm here, hopefully there's the next steps that it's going to happen. So if that answers your question.
Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. As far as you can tell, all the people that worked under Chief Stan, do they seem like they're gonna stay on if you become the chief?
Yes, I believe so. They were all happy to see that I was put into this position and potentially getting the promotion into the full-time position. I have had no negative comments from it. They were all positive.
And speaking with, when we sat down with Jared and talked about it, we felt like we have a lot of young officers. And if we can't offer somebody coming up through the ranks a promotion, we're gonna lose a lot of people to Billings, the county, the state, and other agencies. So we have to show our department that, yes, we're here for them. And if they qualify and they work out, there's movement within the Laurel here. You don't have to go somewhere else. So who raised their hand? Vice President Wilkie.
Thank you. Do you have some folks you're looking at real tight to fill your captain's position?
I do. I've already spoke, one of our detectives, Bill Brew. I have asked him to take place as the acting captain right now. If I do get appointed as chief, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
We have a question from, or a comment from Attorney Brockman on the phone.
Hang on, turn you on. Okay, go ahead.
You, and thank you, council members. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yes.
My apologies that I have to appear remotely tonight. I had some difficulties in getting out to Laurel tonight. But I would like to speak on this particular issue because this particular issue impacts my office as well as the city prosecutor's office very directly. And so am I able to be heard on this issue? Is that okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. What I want to convey is I worked with Chief Langvey, obviously, in the entire course of my tenure up until acting Chief England taking over as the chief. And I have an incredible amount of respect for Chief Langvey. I think he did exceptional work for our department. He was very well respected in our law enforcement community. And I felt very, very proud of the work that he did, not only in reducing liability for the city, but in addressing crime issues. In the course of the time that I have worked with acting Chief England, he has stepped up into this role in an exceptional way. I can't describe how responsive he has been. It is very hard for city staff that wears the hats that our department heads do, including our chief of police, to respond to city attorney requests and the city prosecutor's requests. And he does that in the most timely manner possible. I mean, I cannot overstate how much he responds in a timely manner. We were, and I'll just give like a simple example. We were dealing with some things this week related to the Yellowstone animal shelter and the displaced animals involved in that, and looking at an MOU related to that. And he got me over that information immediately. He responded immediately. His responsiveness, I cannot overstate how much that helps me in my job. And I've spoken distinctly with our city prosecutor and how much that helps him in his job. The level of connection and I think very good relationship that exists right now between our city prosecutor and Chief England and his officers in that department, again, cannot be overstated. It is not only a functional relationship, it is an extremely positive and productive relationship. So I want to state that I could not be more impressed with how Chief England has stepped into his interim capacity, what his leadership has meant for the department, and I am super excited as an attorney for the city, and I don't want to speak for Nick as the prosecutor. He's obviously not here tonight, but I think I can speak for him in saying there is only good things coming up. So I'm incredibly grateful for him stepping into this capacity and am fully supportive of it. And thank you for giving me that time to express that.
You're welcome. With that being said, he has a huge, what would you say? Chief Langby, that was the only name he gave me the day he walked out the door, was he's the next in line. He's like, he will do a great job. So, he recommended him highly. Councilmember Canopy.
I agree with everything that's been said. I've watched him from the beginning, way back. But what I really respect is that you guys made the right decisions to hire within and promote within. You saw the good things that were coming from him, and it's the only way to keep officers that have a goal to shoot for. And I appreciate everything he's ever done for us and what you guys have done for him and promoting within the system. I think it's a huge move. And I thank you for everything you've done.
Anything else? See you next week. Thank you. Next, under executive review, we have a planning resolution. I will let CAO Markey Guard bring this forward.
Okay, we're gonna get into stuff that council really doesn't ever hear about. And we have a MOU with Yellowstone County GIS Services to provide planning services, zoning, mapping, public works, data storage for our utilities. And this predates me being with the city. I think the original resolution was, 2004 or 5. Right before so 21 years ago, we had a resolution, and I think it was for $2,000 a year to store that, and then to host on Yellowstone County GIS's department our zoning, mapping of the things that we do. And I guess I just wanted, before I bring Mike Powell up, he's in the audience tonight, people that you don't know that are in the background that help us every day, and the department helps us every day. We use the services weekly. Jason and I use it weekly for zoning issues. We also go on there for addressing. We use it for when we have to send out public notices. We have to go on that website. Yellowstone County GIS is essentially Laurel's GIS. And so we use that. And the people that use it the most, I think, is the Laurel PD uses mapping for addressing. We use it, the building department uses it, the planning department, Public Works, like I said, we have storage of our data from our water and sewer mapping. And that part of the Public Works part was back in 2002, 3, and 4, maybe a little bit in 5, we had a intern that was going to college that was doing geographical information. And she came out every summer during her college years, and she went out and mapped every water valve, every sewer manhole. And then that data, we had back then we had servers, and we were barely just starting email back in 2005. It was, when I got here, the people were still using typewriters, but the GIS services was just coming on with the county, and where the city would get involved in that. So with that, we got involved in 2005. I've used it pretty much weekly. I'm going on 21 years. I constantly review that information. And after all those years of staying at $2,000 a year for 21 years or however long it's been, Mike approached us this spring about, hey, can we look at what our services are, what we can bring to the table? We can use you a lot more. And I just wanted to give, if anybody, show of hands, if you've ever looked at the Yellowstone County's GIS mapping, I'd like to just show you if I can. Would that help, Mike? Show it. So I just wanted to plug in and kind of walk you through on how some of the things that you can see. And did it turn off? And I think part of the thing is a lot of the things that we don't share with you is how you guys can actually go and look up information. And this is what we're talking about when we share this. And I just wanted to start from the basics. This is Yellowstone County's website. And in order to get it, you just click on departments. And this is new. I think you guys just rolled this out. Can you hit your mic button, Mike? There you go. Perfect.
Yes,
This is Mike Powell.
we've just redesigned the county webpage. I'm not part of that. I was the IT department. But yeah, we've just redesigned it because it was getting kind of old.
So you go to departments and then you click on GIS mapping. Oop. And then you go down there and you'll see interactive mapping and they got fire. You got Yellowstone County Parcel Viewer, Yellowstone County all layers, schools, elections, floodplain, subdivisions, and then here's zoning. So if you click into the zoning, it shows all of Yellowstone County, including Billings. Sometimes it's hard to. So right in there, you'll see Laurel zoning. And then if you zoom in, and you just click on City Hall here and it pulls up the tax deed. It says City of Laurel, East Laurel lot. You click on the details and then you can get all the information on this building. So if you go in there and then hit the Department of Revenue data, it tells you that we're essentially exempt. The year the building was 1945, it's Laurel City Hall. And then all this information about what it's made out of, and then the square footage. All this is on GIS website. And it's accessible to everybody in the community, everybody in the county. In fact, everybody in the world can go on this and do this. But the stuff that GIS stores for us is back to the zoning. They don't, we've had the MOU in place where they're hosting all this. So this is the kind of stuff that staff uses on a daily basis, especially the building department, planning department. And then I can, like I said, I can even go in the county. If we get a complaint, I can go on this and say, okay, let's find out if that complaint is from an actual owner of the property or if they're a renter. We can go on and use this GIS information. And like I said, it doesn't show the water and sewer maps. That's kind of, we try to keep that not open to the public at all times. It's critical infrastructure, so we don't have that, but they do store it for us and we can access that data. We can send it to an engineering firm and say, would you please share that information? And we release that information. But anyway, these are the things that GIS does. And this MOU, Mike's asking after 21 years to essentially renew the MOU and increase it a couple $1,000s to a total of $4,000 total. So I've been putting them off since I took a vacation in June. We've had the MO work back and forth between the city attorney and the county attorney, going through Mike and myself. I missed the email back in June and Mike asked me about it a few weeks ago. Hey, we need to get that going and we just approved the budget. So we can go ahead and then, how it's gonna be paid for, it's gonna be split out. How we did the original one, 2005, we'll go back in and say Public Works is gonna share in the cost of it, planning. And we'll take it out of those revenues that we receive from the whole area. They also host the county zoning that was newly adopted around us. And then what you see there is, I mean, you can even turn on city limits. So there's a whole myriad of things what you can look at, like if you're the officers, so the police officers over the PD, they can click on a layer. And then they can click on, I believe it's Yellowstone County.
If you're looking for city limits, yeah, Yellowstone and then drop down.
So you go to Yellowstone and then you drop down and it says city limits. And you can click on it and there you go. It highlights it in pink and brings up what the city limits. So every time we have an annexation, we send it off to GIS and then they upload it. New subdivision. So example, Cherry Hill fourth filing is right here, right in the middle there. And that was added. And then, so they bring that all in, they produce the lots. So every subdivision has the meets and bounds. Mike's department puts in the meets and bounds. We work with the GIS office for every routing for subdivisions and family transfers in the county and in the city. It all goes through GIS for review and they do it as a county department helping city of Laurel business. So that's my spiel, Mike, if you'd like to add anything to that, but.
I really can't. I mean, you've done well. Good job. I mean, a little bit more of the back history. The MOU that we had in 2005 was the last MOU we've had. It was set up for every year. It was supposed to be reviewed and renewed. It was never done after 2005, but you guys continued to pay it, which is great. We appreciate that. But like last year when we were looking at this and stuff, we decided, hey, we need to just get this up to 2025 standards now. So that's why the boost of money, because 2000 is just not handling it anymore, not back like it was in 2005. So that's why that's the case. Yeah, we do everything we do. We are ingrained in everybody's departments in Yellowstone County, in the city of Billings. I mean, they have their own GIS, but we still communicate with them highly. We do all the addressing for the county. So, I mean, this MOU is just a basic say, hey, look, anytime you guys need something from us now, there's no questions. You guys we'll be more than happy to help you out. I think the prior MOU also had a thing where it was just for us to store your data, but yet we were going to still charge you, like if you wanted a map or something, or our time. And I didn't want that. I don't want to mess with that. I'm a pretty simple person. I mean, you guys are in the county. I mean, we're here to help you guys out. So that's what we want to do. So.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, council members. I just wanted to add to what Kurt and our audience offered. I reviewed the MOU, I revised it, it's been circulated through my office and has approval from the city attorney's office so that city council knows.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize if I'm looking a little peakish here, but.
Okay, well, you can leave then.
Are we?
The last comment I would like to make is Mike is just not a one person by there. Can you explain the other people that are in your office so they know your office? So.
Sure. Yeah, I'm the GIS manager. We have 3 other people in our office. Eve Roosevelt, she does all of our parcels, and anything related to parcels she's in charge of. We have Alyssa Quiros. She's our address coordinator. She does everything addressing, everything with the roads. Is it Justin that does the addressing here?
Jason.
So she's in constant communication with Jason. And then we have Janet Reynolds, who deals with our websites and makes sure all of our data is where it needs to be and looking right.
And I would have to add that all of his staff, him included, over the years, I've gone down there when they changed the website and the GIS, and then I think it's ArcView that you guys use, ArcGIS.
Well, it's ArcGIS, yes.
But when me and Jason or any of the building officials or building people in the past, we go down to that office and we get trained by Janet. She walks us through how to work that. I'd be happy if any council members have a question on how to use that website. It's kind of difficult if you've never worked on it, but especially the map layers.
Well, also, if there's a lot of people that are interested, we can certainly come down.
And
We
do a
got no
training.
problem coming down and do a little training and showing you the website and stuff. I mean, let us know. That's what we're here for, so.
And Mike has offered to come over and train dispatchers on how to use it so that if they're looking up information on, well, anybody, I guess, that they're looking for, they can access the GIS information and find out who owns property, who's maybe on there, who's the ownership of that. So if they're going onto a site, it's all available through the GIS and how to look up that property. So, yeah, they've always been very, very generous about their time. I've sat down there for a couple hours just learning how to use this website. So over the period of 21 years, I've gotten pretty good at it. And then they go ahead and then they have an update or change, and then I got to relearn it. So then Mike's cussed out a little bit in my office. They updated it. So, but like I said, I can't say it enough that they've been really, really good to work with over the last 21 years. So I appreciate it. And hopefully they're around for the next.
Yeah, hopefully that's the plan.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's all I have to add.
Okey-doke.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let you handle number 3 also.
All right, so planning item, we have a resolution, city council approving or denying zone change for Iron Horse Station subdivision residential R6000 duplex to residential RML multifamily. Oh, you have it on the workshop as two resolutions, I believe, and I'd like, one resolution. No, I'd like to have Michelle Brockman.
Yeah, 2 resolutions.
So if you can, Michelle, would you like to speak on this about what they're?
Sure. I'll speak on this issue. So there are, and this is going to be a little bit unusual for council to consider, because most of the time, as council is aware, when we present issues to you, it is a resolution that approves something. This particular issue is a land use issue that requires scrutiny as to the zoning issues involved that require council to review what has been recommended by the zoning commission. So the zoning commission in this particular matter has recommended a denial of the particular zoning request. That does not, and I want to make this clear to council, does not mean that you are bound by that decision. Council ultimately has the decision-making power, if we want to call it that, to decide if the conditions for zoning are met or not met under the rational nexus test. So what we have proposed to council are both an alternate approval, and I think that's I might be, Brittany could correct me on this, but I believe that A was an approval of the zoning commission denial, or B, a resolution that actually rejects the zoning commission denial. What is incredibly important for council to consider on this issue is that and I've spoken to this on these quasi judicial matters that council considers. It is incredibly important that you review zoning commission recommendations, you review the entire packet in front of you, so that when you make a determination next week, you are able to articulate and vote yay or nay on a particular resolution. As I said, there are two resolutions in front of you. One is the approval and one is the denial. The denial is consistent with the zoning commission recommendation. What you will see when you review the packet is it was a very close decision by the zoning commission. And I think as you learned from our meeting last week where we had a lot of planning issues, none of us can speak to why the planning board or zoning commission made those recommendations. We're not permitted as city staff to state the reasons for that. You need to review that on your own and then determine next week whether you want to make a decision consistent with what the zoning commission has recommended or inconsistent. So the two resolutions that are in front of you right now offer you those two alternative options. And as I said, the reason for that, as I noted, it's a little bit of an unusual presentation to city council, but this is what happens when we're dealing with land use issues. We don't want to presuppose what city council is going to decide on these issues. Are you going to decide something consistent with what the zoning commission recommended? Perhaps, and there is one resolution for that. If not, there is an alternative resolution available for it. So that's kind of my summary on the issues. Again, if I can respectfully recommend, council needs to very, very much read through the packet of information you have been presented with in order to make a determination next week. Because your determination, and I'll speak to this, I mentioned the mayor and going to note another land use issue we're dealing with right now. But your determination on any land use issue is subject to appeal to district court. So it's very important that you have an acute awareness of why and how you're making the decisions you're making. And that means if you're going to reject, for example, the zoning commission's recommendation, you have a very clear understanding and are able to articulate that next week of why you're doing that. Does all of that make sense?
Hey, Michelle, this is Kurt. I have Forrest in that. I think some of the things that are not discussed is if the staff report, Forrest, if you can elaborate, that staff report goes through the nexus of the criteria that a council, the local governing body should review. And if you could just name some of those, the nexus of what the council should be reviewing for.
Certainly, and Michelle, that was an excellent explanation of what's coming down next week. Beyond that, there was information presented at the council public hearing that the zoning commission was not privy to. There was new information presented at your public hearing, which is also part of the record that you factor in as you look at the statutory 12 points for the assignment of zoning. Run through those really quickly. Is the zoning consistent with the growth policy? Is the zoning designed to lessen congestion in the streets? Is the zoning designed to secure safety from fire, panic, and other dangers? Is the zoning designed to promote the public health and the general welfare? Is the zoning designed to provide adequate light and air? Is the zoning designed to prevent the overcrowding of land? Is the zoning designed to avoid undue concentration of population? Is the zoning designed to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewerage, schools, parks, and other public requirements? Does the zoning give reasonable consideration to the character of the districts and its peculiar suitability for particular uses? Does the zoning give reasonable consideration to the peculiar suitability of the property for particular uses? Will the zoning conserve the value of buildings? And lastly, will the zoning encourage the most appropriate use of land throughout the municipality? The zoning commission recommendation included those 12 points. And it is part of the information provided to council upon which you base your decision, is looking at those 12 points.
Thank you, Forrest.
You bet.
Further note on that, Mayor,
Yes.
as to those 12 points, and I think Forrest did a great job of articulating those 12 points. Those 12 points are the same 12 points that council should consider, notwithstanding the zoning commission's recommendation. So what I want council to understand is when you receive recommendations, for example, from the zoning commission, that doesn't presuppose your decision. Now, many times when we present resolutions to you to consider, we present them, if you want to call it, presupposing those conditions, because for a variety of reasons, we present that for a simplicity purpose. That doesn't mean council is bound by what the zoning commission has decided. It is important for city council to evaluate all of those 12 points and make your own determination. You can absolutely factor in and should consider the zoning commission's recommendations. That commission has a very important role in evaluating land use issues to help you kind of, if you want to call it, weed through some of these more complicated land use issues, but it should not presuppose your decision. And so if you decide next week to make a decision not consistent with what the zoning commission has recommended, that is what we've provided to you as an alternative resolution, which essentially says that you have evaluated that some of those 12 factors don't have the same weight as what the zoning commission gave them when they evaluated them. So it's incredibly important for you to go through, just like Forrest said right there, that entire analysis, think through why or how I'm going to make that decision. And if it is not consistent with what the zoning commission has recommended, to be able to articulate those reasons at our meeting next week. Is that something that makes sense to council?
They're shaking their head, yes.
Oh, we have a question. Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. Yes, Attorney Brockman, you've said a couple times that we should be able to articulate that. Does that mean that during the vote next week, we would say yay or nay and follow that up with our reasoning?
In the discussion on the issue, my expectation when when city council is declining a recommendation, for example, from a zoning commission, city council members that are declining that reason should articulate that. So prior to a yay or nay vote, city council members should articulate, okay, for example, I do not believe that the zoning commission's perception on density, for example, is accurate. And that will be consistent with my vote. So yes, I absolutely believe that city council members should, and I encourage you next week on this particular issue, because you're presented with alternative resolutions, to articulate those reasons before you vote.
Thank you.
Councilmember Banks.
I just had a question on, because there's two resolutions, are we gonna be voting on each resolution, or do we have to choose which one we're voting on?
Can I speak to that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. One or the other resolution is what you'll be voting on. One resolution is consistent with the zoning commission's recommendations, and one is not. So it is what I describe, you know, if I could simply say, alternative resolutions. And here again, I understand, you know, council doesn't have these things in front of you. We don't present like this to you most of the time. And it's not that, you know, any resolution that is presented to city council has the ability to be completely in the alternative by way of motion by council. What we try to define as city staff is that if we think there is a particular issue that we are very unsure of as far as how city staff will decide, or city council, excuse me, will decide an issue, we try to present that in what we call alternative resolution, an A and B option. So one or the other will be approved, and then the other one essentially dies on the record. Most of the time when we present things to council, I think we have a general kind of understanding of where things might lie. This particular land use issue, as you will see, and if you haven't already, you know, reviewed in great detail the record, is a very close decision by the zoning commission. And that decision was also not consistent with staff recommendations, which generally does not happen. As Forrest explained, you know, his job is to present the zoning commission's decision to you, and he's done that. But there is a lot of inconsistency in this particular issue from a legal standpoint. Staff recommendation is not what the zoning commission decided, and the zoning commission decision was very, very close on this. And so from a staff perspective, when we were analyzing how best to present this to council, our decision was we needed to give you both options. So it will be one or the other that council approves.
Councilmember,
Answer the question.
No, not exactly. So if we're voting on one or the other, how do we articulate as a group which one we're voting on?
The sequencing.
Sorry, go ahead, Kurt.
I think that the question is, how do they sequence? How do they actually start talking about it? Is it a motion to approve one and then discussion, a second and then discussion? Motion to approve the other one with discussion to articulate that?
So how I I anticipate next week would go on, and this is how I always anticipate alternative resolutions to occur. A motion is made on one resolution, and that is the first resolution, and I'm gonna apologize, I'm not looking at which one, whether it was the approval or denial in front of me, but let's assume A is the approval. Discussion occurs on that. A motion is made or it's not made to approve that particular resolution. Say a motion is made on that resolution, it dies, and then we move to the second resolution. Does that make sense?
So potentially we would be voting on both of them?
Well, both resolutions you have to vote on. You have to vote whether you're going to approve or decline either of them. So we say, and I don't know the numbering, Brittany could step in here and say the numbering because I'm not, as I said, I'm not looking at my computer, but say it's 2581A. A motion is made to approve that resolution. If it is not seconded, because council knows that you are moving to the next one, then it dies. And then a motion is made on 81. Here again, I'm using loose terms because I'm not looking at the numbering of them and I don't think I've seen them. And then you move to resolution 2. And honestly, if in this issue, because I completely understand the confusion on this, I will circulate to council tomorrow a very detailed email of here's exactly how this is approached. And I'll look at if one is approved, what you need to do, and then how you move to the second. Like I said, I apologize. I'm not in front of my computer right now, so I don't know if the first one is approval and then the second one is denial. If the first one passes, you don't even move to the second resolution. So if it helps, and I do understand. I mean, I'm trying to be careful here, but I do understand that at city council meetings, designate certain people to make motions and then, they're seconded. I will chart out that path of what that would look like. If you're going to approve the resolution, this is the motion and how it needs to be made. If you're not going to, this is how it's going to be made. And I will give you that information. So you know that. Again, I know that's, I want to be careful on what I'm saying here, but, I know that's often assigned to people so that everyone knows what they need to do. I basically, in short, I'll give you the tools that you need by tomorrow to figure out how you can approve or deny each motion on each resolution.
Okay, Brittany has some input.
We have done an A/B resolution a couple times before. And what we typically do is not assign anybody to make the motion. We allow you to make either A or B, and then we need a second and we move through the process. If the first one fails, then you have to move on to the second one. But you're not tied to making either A or B first, whichever you feel the group would like to vote on. So that's why you have both.
What I would follow up on that, Brittany, thanks for that information. What I would follow up on that, what I'll circulate tomorrow is basically kind of a blank slate of who will make what motion. Again, if as to the first resolution, no one moves to adopt it, then that dies and we move to the next one. So as Brittany said, I didn't know if we, on alternative resolutions, if we typically assign people, because we do that on non-alternative resolutions. I'll circulate that so that you guys have clear direction on what needs to be done. I mean, it's clearly, and this is incredibly important in a situation like this, that we have a very clear record of why you're deciding what you're deciding. And I think, I don't know if it was Council President Sparks that raised this issue. Here again, sorry, appearing audio, but yes, I absolutely understand and agree. You need to know and have direction on how you should move on particular issues. I won't presuppose what that will be, but I'll give you direction on the alternatives available to you and circulate that tomorrow if that works.
Councilmember McKay, did you have a question before?
I do, yes, thank you. And I think this question is primarily for Forrest. You had mentioned that there was information provided at the public hearing that the zoning commission was not aware of. And I'm wondering if that was when the property owner spoke and what specifically that information was that the commission was not able to consider when they made their recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, Council Member McKay, yes, there was a lot of communication from the landowner that the zoning commission was not privy to. That's the reason why in the zoning assignment process, we take these steps. The zoning commission is one of them, but you have to consider the entirety of the record as the council, as you adopt your findings of fact, your conclusions of law, and your interpretation as to the decision you will make next week. Consider the entirety of the record is what I'm saying to you.
Did he dance around that one good enough for you?
Mr. Mayor, can I follow up on that?
Okay.
It is incredibly important for council, and I think Forrest articulated this well. It is incredibly important for council to consider all of the information in front of you. That doesn't just mean what is presented to the zoning commission. Zoning commission has an incredibly important role in relationship to making recommendations to you as council members. But your decisions need to be based upon the entire record. And as Forrest noted, if there are later factual issues that are presented to council, council needs to consider those issues. It is very, very important that the whole record is considered in your analysis and not just if I can call it carte blanche adoption of what the zoning commission does. As I said, the zoning commission, the planning board, these boards have incredibly important roles for making recommendations to council, but it is not always accurate that what is presented to these boards is what comes in front of city council. And that's why we have public hearings on these issues. It is for you to consider issues that may not have been presented to the planning board or zoning commission. And those things should be evaluated in your decision.
Councilmember Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This probably would be a combination between Michelle and Mr. Forrest. If both of these resolutions fail to have a motion made does this issue go back to the property owner to come talk to the zoning commission or the city planning, or what happens if both of these resolutions fail to have a motion made?
You want to answer that for us?
I'll take the first shot at it and then let the city attorney dovetail in if she'd like to. I submit if the resolution is neither approved or denied, it's denied by default. They've requested a change from 6,000 to RMF. If the council doesn't approve that change, it stays at our 6,000. And the developer would have to go back and take a look at their whole card and submit another application for the planning board and the council to consider at some later date in the future. That'd be my take on it.
I'm in complete agreement with what Forrest said. It would be back, if you want to call it, at square one. A whole new application and presentation to the planning board and zoning commission.
Colton, you're awful quiet. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I had the opportunity to present to you a week ago, so really just wanted to make myself available for this work session if there was questions or discussion, but just to summarize previously, this was platted quite a while ago. Really, those lots have had infrastructure up there for quite some time now as well. Our client, Marvin Brown, and some building partners are finally ready to move forward on getting some housing production out there. And as they've evaluated it, are looking for some additional flexibility that our 6,000 doesn't allow. So as we evaluated this further, with there already being RMF zoning directly south of this property, with there already being RMF zoning directly west of this property, it seemed to make sense that these particular lots that we're asking fit the character of the neighborhood, and that it made sense through the request. But again, just wanted to make myself available through the discussion that if there are any questions that council or Mr. Mayor you have, that I'm available here to try to answer those to the best of my ability. So again, thank you for your time and the consideration of our application. So.
Any questions for Colton?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I also do have contact by Marvin Brown on the phone. If the council did have any questions of him about, I think we're talking about process tonight. We're not really discussing the project, but the process. But Marvin Brown said he would be available for questions via phone call if the council did have any questions of him tonight. He was traveling. He was out of the immediate area, but he did contact me and say that he would be willing to answer any questions of the council. I just want to let you know that he was available by phone if we needed to.
Any other questions? Just
Mr. Mayor, may I follow up on one procedural issue?
okay.
Thank you. And I hate to take council's time on this, but it is incredibly important on these issues, as I said, for council to review everything that's been presented to you. And when a decision is made next week and discussion on that decision occurs, if that decision is inconsistent with the zoning commission's recommendation, it is very important for council to articulate why and how you're making that decision. So and I think I touched on this earlier, but if you are making a decision because you disagree that the density recommendations, for example, from the zoning commission are not consistent with what you perceive them to be, and you've analyzed that in the record, it is important for you to articulate those reasons prior to making the vote on this particular issue. because as I touched on, and the mayor knows this, I will touch on this later on a land use issue we're dealing with. The record on why and how council does or does not agree with a recommendation from the planning board or zoning commission is important for you to articulate. So I ask each of you very respectfully that you review the issues involved here and be prepared, if you are going to disagree most specifically with the zoning commission's recommendations, to be able to articulate the reasons for that on the record prior to a vote being made on this particular issue.
Questions? Any more discussion? Okay, thank you, Colton. Thank you, Forrest, for coming. Next, we'll move to a Public Works resolution. It is a resolution of the City Council authorizing the mayor to execute an independent contractor service contract with Donahue Roofing and Siding LLC. This is for the roof down at the water plant. They're water guys. I don't understand why a little water coming through the roof bothers them, but it seems to. So this will be for the flat roof down there and replacing that. Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. In some of the promotional material in our packet, it says there's a lifetime warranty, and then in the actual document that is drawn up, it says it's a 20-year warranty. So I am curious which it is.
I will check on that, but I was under the impression it was a lifetime warranty. So I will double check that, but that's a good question. Anybody else?
Whose lifetime?
On the roof, not the person.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was my life.
You know, the building will
What?
fall down,
Okay,
but the
so-
roof will still be
All right,
there.
I'm not sure we're gonna be around.
Guys look young in the picture, so
Who's
they're
gonna bring
like.
up the warranty issue in 30 years.
So, and it, so I will definitely check on that before next week. So, any other questions? We got to you, Jamie. Here's the Public Works. The Bull Rod and Gun Club building discussion. Vice President Wilkie notified me that he would like to bring this forward to council for discussion. You have some people that are interested.
Well, we've had, thank you, by the way. We've had some inquiries as to what the building could be used for, who's gonna be responsible for repairing it, upgrading it. Richard has inquired as to how they can get involved in it to make a shooting range out of it. John Rutt has, his group has kind of said, you know, maybe we should make a museum out of it or a gazebo out of it or something. And Jamie, she's interested in doing shooting, I think maybe incorporated with Richard's endeavor. We just need to have some guidance from the council as to where to go. The park tree board really doesn't have any way to make a decision on what we're gonna do with it. We would like to see it used, obviously, in some form or fashion. We missed out on an opportunity in 2013 to have it completely restored back to habitable condition, and we were denied that opportunity. Not the city, the Laurel Rod and Gun Club was denied that opportunity. And so we've kind of given up on it as a club. So going forward, we need to have guidance from the city council as to who's going to look after the building. The city owns it. It's on the state registry. So I don't think it can be tore down, but it needs to be used for something by somebody. And we've been waiting for a champion since the flood. So I don't know where that goes. Thank you.
Councilmember Mize?
Thank you. And my understanding is part of what we need from council is the decision on whether or not we can look for a group to take over that building, or if we want it to be strictly like a city available to the public and the city maintains it, or if we can start to interview and
dream outside the circles.
Council President Sparks?
Just to make sure that I'm clear, we're talking about the one that has the indoor shooting, the past indoor.
Log, not the stone one, the log one.
So that's not the one that has the lead issue from past.
Right.
This is the other one.
This is the real big one,
Okay.
The rifle.
Okay.
right behind the Lions.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. However, the decision is made, I think we have to consider that the Laurel Lions Club has their building that they use to rent out to different groups, whoever wants to use it. So I don't think that we should entertain having somebody move into the Rod and Gun Club building with the intent of using it for a rental for funeral or for birthdays or anniversaries or weddings or any of that, because that would interfere with what the Lions are doing.
Lions have put a lot of money in that building, so yeah, it would be a bad second venue spot. So I'd like to introduce Jamie Krug, and you can let the council know what you would like to see done with or what you would like to do with it.
So I am a 4-H leader for Yellowstone County. The club is the Laurel Road Runners. I actually just found out we're one of the oldest clubs in the county. I do primarily shooting sports for the 4-H and the county. So I take the youth, I teach them proper gun safety, teach them how to shoot and how to enjoy that. Gives them an opportunity to have something to do in the community. We also, if we can use it for our meetings and for other activities too, we would like that. So that it gives the kids in the area the opportunity to have activities to do outside of school. I'm more than happy to open it up to like the archery in the school is a program, the shotgun in the school, give more than just 4-H kids the opportunity to have activities, because it seems like they're starting to dwindle away. So just give the kids the chance to do something.
Councilmember Closey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The program that the American Legion has called Shooting Sports works with the 4-H, and their sponsorship is mainly buying the targets that are needed for the competition. And there are scholarships available through the American Legion for these kids when they go to the national competition.
Didn't you tell me there's a pile of guns in Bozeman?
That's what I was told.
Waiting to be had?
That there's guns at University of Montana State in Bozeman to be used.
Council President Sparks?
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to more people championing the buildings down there. Obviously, we don't have the funding to fix all of those and whatever. I've got just 2 questions though related to this. One is probably more for Attorney Brockman. Knowing that the proposal is the shooting range inside, where's the city's liability in that? Because I know that we've had some liability concerns with other shooting stuff down there. So that's my first question.
Well, these are pellet guns, right?
Oh, okay, so these aren't like 22s?
No.
Okay, so that probably answers my second question too, of if we would have a lead issue in that building too by doing this. But okay, thank you for clearing that up. That makes total sense then, yeah.
I will note, Council President Sparks, and I will tell you, this particular usage in the space is a little bit, if I could call it, a surprise to me. So I'm gonna need to look into this a little bit more. I will tell you, we carry CGL coverage on that space, but that is premises liability coverage, meaning the building I'll give a simple example. The building burns down and the value of it is covered. Anyone present when something like that occurs is covered. I'm not aware that we carry any sort of, nor would I be a proponent of us carrying any sort of coverage for usage of that space that involves use as a general matter. And here again, to what degree we're talking about firearms, I guess we'd have to distinguish. But I will definitely need to look into that, because city spaces are not insured for spectators or invited guests. Invited individuals is how we refer to it from a legal standpoint, coming into the premises and performing activities that are not expected. So one, I'm going to need to look into this. As I said, this is the first that I'm hearing on this particular issue. Look into what we're talking about as far as activities. I think what you're noting is absolutely valid. We need to make sure that however that space is used has the appropriate insurance coverage. And right now, the only coverage that would exist is as to premises liability. So I don't, as I said, I don't know how that space is used, and I'm learning this for the first time in this discussion tonight, but I will look into that. We can certainly provide, and I think Councilmember Closey is actually very familiar with this, and there's other individuals that are. We have city space that we do lease out, and we also have other contractual arrangements with that allow use of that space that we provide collateral insurance for, and we have mutual indemnification for. I think Councilmember Closey mentioned the other space that's existing in that park space. We've negotiated lease arrangements for that space and what it would look like. And yes, I have a lot of concern about if that space is being used for exposure issues. And so I will commit to looking into that. I'll circle back with city staff and figure out what's going on so that we make sure that we have the appropriate coverage in place. Because right now, our coverage that exists in that space is just premises liability coverage.
Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. And I think I can speak for the park board when I say we're not hoping to pick a group tonight or pick a usage tonight. We more just wanted to know, like, as people come in and start to say, could we come into this space? Is that something we as a board can even entertain? Does that sound right?
Council President or Vice President Wilkie.
Thank you. I think one of the questions that keeps coming up when we're entertaining folks that would like to use that building is, where is the document that says that that building was condemned in 2011? We were told at the time by the COA that was in the job at the time that we were locked out because it was condemned because of the flood. There was a report done by, I can't remember the company name, but it was presented to the city, it was signed for. They have it in their possession that shows there was mold in the building. Without moisture, the mold isn't there. There was lead in the building, that if the lead components were not disturbed, there was no issue. I'd like to know where that report is. I haven't been able to find my copy of it. And at that time, the Laurel Rod and Gun Club presented an estimate to the city council for the tune of $46,000+ to have that building made habitable. And we were told we could not do that, and we essentially were locked out. So that's kind of where that sits. We need to clear that up first. Is the building habitable? And if we're going to habitate that building, the sewage system needs to be repaired. And at that same time, the Laurel Rod and Gun Club went to Riverstone Health and had a letter in possession, I may still have that, that said that we could restore the sewage system coming out of that building, but we could not replace it. Meaning if there was a component that was needed to repair, we could repair that. If there was a field there that was obstructed, we could fix that. If I can find those documents, I'll bring them in, but the one that I'm looking for and have been looking for a long, long time is the one that says that the building was condemned. Thank you.
Does the 4-H carry an insurance rider?
So if we follow the 4-H guidelines, we do have, I believe it is $1 million liability insurance through the University of Montana in Bozeman. And I can get copies of that again so that you guys have it. So yes, we do have our own insurance for liability for anybody that comes into the facility as long as they follow our guidelines and our stuff. I am the certified leader for archery, pistol, and muzzle loading right now. I am more and will get recertified in rifle if we have the ability to shoot somewhere and have the kids involved. So I will be the one to give you guys that certifications to use the insurance if we do that.
Did you have something?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, we have a certified floodplain manager in the audience. He's still here, so he's still on the clock. But Forrest, could you speak about Councilmember Wilkie's comments? That building is in the floodplain. Riverside Park is in the floodplain. I believe, I don't have all the knowledge you have about floodplain and structures in the floodplain and when it's damaged, those regulations.
It boils down to substantial damage. It's been a long time since I was down and looked at the structure, but I didn't think that it was substantially damaged as a result of the floods. It was 2011 or 13. Armed with the letter from Riverstone, you can't put a new septic tank and drain field in the 100-year floodplain, but repair, as long as the local health department, Riverstone, approves, you can continue to use existing facilities or maintain the existing facilities so long as that work does not exceed 50% of the value of the structure. So
And what I'm alluding to that, Councilmember Wilkie, I don't believe the value of the structure was ever evaluated back then. Like how much that building was worth and then the repairs. I don't think we had an analysis say it's worth $200,000 and the repairs are 46,000. Well, that would be 25%. It's not 50%. The issue was who was going to put the money into the building. Was it the Rod and Gun Club going to put the money into it, raise the funds to fix it, or if it was the city's contribution? At the time, we put in a claim for that and for FEMA assistance, and I think they gave us $3,000. So that's where it was, where the entire park got $3,000. There wasn't a lot of money from FEMA to put into the building, and that's my recollection. It was $3,000. And so if there was a bill of 46,000, 3,000 didn't go very far. And then we were just waiting if the council, like I said, I was never aware of putting a value on the property and then seeing if it was substantially damaged. It never happened. I do know I think you guys had a quote around 46,000 as a Rod and Gun Club member back then. I'm just going off the basis of that, but I'm not sure if there was ever a letter that stipulated that the building was condemned. I know the previous CEO probably made that statement. I can't remember totally what she did or what she didn't do, but I'm wondering if she evaluated on herself that said, hey, it's substantially damaged because 50% the cost of that building was, damaged if it takes that much to repair it. But that'd be an analysis. I don't even know if the analysis was done.
Could I respond? I agree with your analysis, the figuring out what the building was worth. Somewhere along the line, I remember that coming up. But the estimate that the Rod and Gun Club got was from Alpha Omega. They were the
Okay.
group that gave us the estimate. That estimate was good for a year. And we were told that we were locked out because it was condemned. It came from that desk. And so then we pretty much dropped it because, and then the estimate went away. As I recall, there was 8 inches of water in the building that came up through the floor primarily. There is a portion of the floor that's wood that created that mold. When we dug part of that wood up, the mold was there. But as time dried out and the people that came in and tested it for us, I still on the tip of my tongue, the company that did that, he was a member of the club and he owned a company that worked with CHS. And he went over and did an analysis of that, as well as Mr. Howard did. And the city used his recommendation that there absolutely was lead there. Absolutely, there was mold there. And the other person said, yes, but with no moisture there, the mold is not an issue. The lead is in the paint. And it kind of went from there. And then when we got the declaration from that desk that said that it was condemned and we were no longer allowed to be in there, that we just kind of dropped it because we were going to lose that opportunity to fix it for what we had money to in the coffers to pay for it. So the city really didn't want to have anything to do with it at that time, outside of telling us that we couldn't do anything.
Mr. Mayor, if I would, I'd be willing as CAO to look onto that project and maybe get some new estimates on what the repairs are to that building now. We're talking something that was probably looked at or hasn't been looked at in the last 10 years. I don't know if the park board has gone down and reviewed it. I know we did tours a long time ago, but I'd be willing to help be a city employee to take on that task and try to see what the structure needs, I guess, and maybe get some estimates on what that would need and then report back to the city council and the park board. If the mayor chooses for me to work on that, I would be willing to do that as city staff. So
I don't know if I could speak for the whole park board, but I think that would be a welcome start to figuring out what we can do with that building and if it's usable at all. I think that would be a good place to start. I would appreciate any help in that manner. Thank you.
Forrest?
Just as a follow-up, I think Kurt's on the right track, but start with what's the value of the building today? That's going to be your driver. If it's worth $100,000, your limit has to be 50. Otherwise, you're looking at a substantial improvement, and that causes you problems under floodplain. So, a kind of a two-prong approach. If the decision is to move forward, get a value of the building, and then an estimate of cost to repair, and keep it under 50%, or you trigger floodplain problems that you really don't need, want, or desire.
the last thing I would have to add about that, when we were originally discussing restoring that building, we didn't have a new rock levee along the banks. That project was a FEMA project and it was a $1 million price tag on that. Riprap, vegetation. If you go down there now, you'll see the willows that were planted that the beavers didn't take away from the construction project. But that bank looks totally different than it did in 2011, 12, 13. I think anybody that's down there, goes down there, Councilmember Closey can probably attest to this because he's down there daily. But that bank looks totally different and the river looks totally different than it did in 2011, 12. In fact, all the way up until about 2 years ago, we've got a lot more. The river's moved out to the middle of the channel. But we do have that, what we were talking about back then in 11 and 12, 13, we didn't have that big, nice rebuilt I call it a levy. It's not an official levy, but FEMA stepped in and gave the city $1 million to help do that, armor it. And during the most recent floods, is my memory, we've had some water come up through the ground when the river's high, but it's not to a level that we saw in 2011 where it was coming over the bank and spilling in there. And then I essentially got pictures of trash cans floating in the water down there. And I do agree, it was 8 to 10 inches of water around that building. We did our best to try to save the park. That Yellowstone River is a formidable adversary, so it got us. And like I said, but we've got that bank there now and it's armored. Before it wasn't armored, it was just river rock, maybe 10 to 12 inch rock that was on that bank. There's still some rock down there from the armoring that I think the Works Progress Administration did, and possibly, I believe it was Japanese POWs, and they armored that probably in the 40s. And then the Works Progress Administration, I think they armored some of that. If you go on the trail that leads east on the boat ramp, you can still see some of that remnants of them stacking river rock up against that berm to try to protect it. So I think the conditions have changed where it should be looked at again and say, okay, because modern construction, you just heard it from an applicant, he's saying, about talking about building costs is $250 a square foot for residential. What is a commercial structure of that size? What would it cost today? What is the value of that structure today? And then what is the estimate? And I don't know, I haven't looked down there for a while at that building, but it's always one of those things that I think the city council, and I'm an advocate for trying to save structures. In this condition, it's in a floodplain, and there's some issues that go along with it, like Forrest alluded to. And so I think that we can do that pretty simply by just getting a hold of some contractors and then try to figure out what modern day construction costs would be for a building of that size.
Councilmember Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Forrest, if that building is registered on the Historical Society, isn't there a responsibility on somebody's part to keep that building and the structure in place, that it shouldn't be allowed to just deteriorate to a pile of rubble?
Yes, Councilman Closey, there are provisions, and there are provisions in the floodplain regulations for structures that are on the historic register, but off the top of my head, what grace it gives you, I don't know. I'd have to look. I know your regulations address it. I wrote them, but what they say on historic buildings off the top of my head, I don't remember. But there are provisions, yes, and we would take full advantage of them if it was the council's desire to move forward.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you again, Forrest. Thank you, Jamie. Kurt, the Germans were here. The Japanese were in Wyoming.
German POWs. Japanese were in Cody. So. Italians too, yeah.
I read Emily's book. Yes, sir.
Kurt, if there's any time that you want to go down there and wander around, I'll let you know right now. I don't believe the lights are working in there but they are been shut off, I believe, by the outside box, and there's a city lock on that. So you'll have to engage the lights, and if you want to go down there sometime, let me know. I'll come down and visit with you and go through it, kind of show you what I can show you and what I can remember.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
That's what we need, you to flip the power on and burn it down.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have permission.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Public Works. We have the Nutty Park sprinkler system discussion. We had 2 bids. Bartram Services came in the low bid and met all requirements that we set out. I'm glad that ain't my yard. 53,746. The other one was about 3,000 more. This is putting on, I think it's the final park, isn't it? Final park that needs sprinklers. It will be efficient, not those laying out those pipes, labor intensive and a waste of water. So, yes, sir, Councilmember Closey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the second bid that we have, is the same type of nozzles and all that going to be the same as the last two parks that we put in underground sprinkler systems? Or is this a complete different,
No,
are we
it'll-
comparing apples and oranges here?
They're pretty close to the same. They're going to be turf heads, not the ratchet. They're going to be the large industrial, commercial turf heads. Large power pipe, they're given a couple of blowout or winterizations. So no, it's close.
So these sprinklers could be interchanged in different parks?
Yes.
You could take them from, say, the Russell Park and put them over here?
You can do that with any sprinkler. It can be a Hunter sprinkler over here and a Rainbird over here, as long as they are gear driven rotors, you can switch them. So I'm not sure what the brand they're using. They just identified them as commercial large turf heads. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Who are you grinning at? Other items? Councilmember Mize.
Thank you. Just a shout out to Public Works for putting in a sidewalk, getting started on that project and kind of enlarging the road with a little bit of a shoulder dirt path for kids' safety. Appreciate it.
Have you walked over there, Councilmember Closey? He did. Now if they can just do something with their pickups and drop-offs in the morning, woof. Attendance at the upcoming council meeting. Everybody? Announcements? Council President Sparks.
Yep, just a reminder that we have emergency services on Monday at 6 here in council chambers.
Did everybody receive their letter from the fire department? If not, it's probably in your box. So, all right, anything else? Thanks for being on the phone, Attorney Brockman.
Mr. Mayor, may I apologize. I inadvertently had you on mute, so I apologize, but can I comment on something on other items so council is aware?
Okay.
Works Committee knows, I met with the Public Works Committee last night. We've had kind of in the works, going through bylaws for our various committees. I have a very good sense after meeting with that committee last night on what the committee needs and also trying to get something consistent together for all of our committees. So I'll be meeting with emergency services. Council President Sparks can confirm it's next Monday, right?
It is at 6.
So I'll be meeting with Emergency Services Committee next week. I'll be circulating that all to city staff to review, provide comments on, and then I'll get that all over to each of the committees with the anticipation that hopefully within, I'll be a little ambitious here and say a month, we will have in front of city council proposed bylaws for all of the committees so that we can get some formalization as far as structure for some of our committees that don't have anything spelled out by ordinance. So we're working hard on that on this end. And I'm happy to take any questions on it. I also wanted to apprise council that we have received, and I notified the Public Works Committee on this last night because this is both a public works and planning issue. We have received notice that we are potentially going to be anticipating litigation on the Lowe's variant signage issue. We have not received that litigation yet. The litigant that has said that he is going to be filing litigation has a 30-day window to do that. So that is 30 days from last week. So last Tuesday when council approved the variance. In the meantime, anything in relationship to that variance is stayed because we have received notice that and a potential appeal on that is pending. I will generally state that based upon the request to date, I have every reason to believe that we will be involved in litigation on this issue. City staff and myself have had to produce a pretty significant amount of materials in relationship to public records requests, and the manner that the communications have been framed to my office indicate to me that we should expect that. So nothing will be moving forward on that particular matter until we see and determine what district court will do with that. Any litigation will be filed in the 13th Judicial District Court, which is Yellowstone County. I will have a lot better sense once filed, depending upon what judge is assigned as far as what timing is involved, and I'll apprise council at that time. But I certainly wanted to make council aware that this issue as it sits right now is stayed because of our notice that an appeal will be taken from city council's decision. And I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Per your conversation with me earlier today, I awarded that variance.
Say that.
I
Sorry,
put-
I
put that I gave them that variance based on the council's vote and decision, and we don't know that this guy's gonna sue. So I approved the Love's variance, or the council approved it. I put it forward. I told Love's to go forward with it.
So you're right that council approved it. I think, Mr. Mayor, you and I need to circle back on that because notice on any right of redetermination stays those issues. So I'll circle back with you separately if I can suggest that to talk about how we want to handle that. It is absolutely correct. City council approved the variance. The notice that we received on the right of redetermination was, and I'll be frank, I got it, I was still working. So I got it over at like 3 o'clock Tuesday night in the morning. I was still working and got it. We've had a number of portions of communication related to other things, but I'll circle back with you, Mayor, if it works, and talk about how we handle that procedurally. For city council's knowledge, we are not moving forward with any sign variance with a right of redetermination until the 30-day window passes. So I apologize, Mayor. Maybe there was a miscommunication between you and I on that issue, so we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, that's once we receive notice on that, it is an automatic appeal to district court. Here again, I don't know that this litigant will file an appeal, but he has indicated that he intends to do so.
Exactly, he hasn't though. So I approved the variance. Loves is going forward with it. It will be stopped if he does go forward with it.
Okay.
Anything else? Council Vice President Wilkie.
Thank you. I have a question about the limitation that we have on council members that can be at a certain location for a certain function. So this in-house or open house that the fire department is proposing for October 8th, if we've all been invited, how do we get past that requirement so that we don't get in trouble somewhere along the line?
If there's anticipation that you're going to be in an event and the council has been invited, we would just simply public notice on the door outside the water office where we do our public notifications that there could be a chance that the council will be attending an open house for the fire department. No council action will be taken. This is
Perfect.
typically how we do that.
That's.
If we know in advance that there's gonna be multiple members of the council, I would always hesitate if you are at an event that is not posted or not even aware and you see 5 together, don't put 5 together.
That's why I asked the question so that we
Don't
don't,
speak.
so we don't get.
That
in
doesn't mean you
trouble.
can't go to an event, like you can't go to a concert, you go to a concert and there's all 8 of you there. Just don't be seen together.
Yep,
So,
that's what I wanted to ask. I appreciate it. Thank you.
so.
Anything else? We are adjourned.